Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So a few days ago, this video was actually going to be very different, but my plans were foiled. You've already seen the title, the thumbnail, etc. So you kind of know what's going on here. But I had this really cool, elaborate plan that I'm still going to go through just for the sake of it. But I had this plan to just do a shardless champ chase, no voids needed, no anything needed. We had all the things prepped and ready to go. And then they just threw out one of my most wanted void legendaries in a 10x. And, you know, I'm tempted, and we're definitely going to be pulling some void shards in this video in order to, you know, give a chance to see if we can get them. I've been on a relatively hot streak lately getting legendaries, so maybe it'll continue with the voids, and maybe we might proc the 10x and actually get a champion that I want from one of these legendaries. So let's backtrack a little bit. So the reason we are even thinking of summoning today is because, of course, there is a champion chase going on for the Armand's fusion. And so if we hop over here, we can see that the milestone is at 3,000. Now, it's a bit higher than my guess at 2,500. Which is pretty much the standard amount, but 3,000 is not much higher because, relatively speaking, that's one sacred if it was 2x sacred or something like that. A few voids, handful, most importantly, it could just be 500 mystery shards. Don't forget about mystery shards when it comes to these types of events. But anyways, the plan was to get to 3,000 points, and the way I planned to do that without using any shards whatsoever was, for starters, summoning 3 of the fusion epics. So let's do that right now. They're 350 a pop because they are void epics, not just non-void epics. So you get a little bit more bang for your buck in that regard. And then that's worth about 1,050 points, so a third of the way. And so I was going to do this regardless. We don't really have a choice, obviously, because I need to level them up for the fusion. So it's these are points that we cannot skip. But after this 1,000 points in the bank, obviously there's also a champion training event going on right now. So there's some incentive to pull some mystery shards. But my other plan was to actually use all 4 of my remnant summons. I had 3 a few days ago, but I knew just looking at the Cursed City path and the stages I'd be able to clear that I was going to be able to get up to 4. So looking at the odds here, the most likely outcome, of course, would just be a non-void epic. And so assuming worst case scenario, I pull all 4 of these, or would have pulled all 4 of these, we get 4 epics. That's another 250 per, or 1,000 points, bringing us up to around 2,000 points. And again, in my head, the champion chase was going to be 2,500, so I would have just finished it out with 500 mystery shards. Now, it being 3,000, not a big deal. I would have just pulled, 900-ish, give or take, mystery shards just to get that done, because I have a ton. As you can see here, I have over 12,000 mystery shards. And so is it painful to do? Sometimes. But in the interest of saving shards, that's the sacrifices that I'm willing to make most of the time. Oh, I nearly forgot that one other thing I did have planned was a Broadmaw copy here, so we can do that live as well. So this is another 350 points for fusing a Broadmaw. Unfortunately, it costs 1,000,000 silver, which is really painful. But there we go. So 4 void epics, bringing us to around 1,400, or exactly 1,400. And then, again, the 1,000 worst case from these guys would bring us to 2,400. That's where I meant to be. And so I would have been 100 away from the 2,500 estimated value for the champ chase. And in this case, I would have only had to pull up to 600-ish mystery shards. So that was the grand total. That was the grand plan. And we are kind of throwing most of that out the window. So obviously we're still going to take credit. We're still going to take credit for the 1,400 points in the champion chase. But like I said, there is a 10x for basically one of my most wanted PvE Hydra style champions. And so we're actually going to go full switch up here. And I'm tempted, and I think we're going to go for it. But I think we're going to try and get the second legendary tome here. So 5,500 points. Doing some back of the napkin calculations here, it usually takes around 30-ish voids to get between 2,500 and 3,000 points. So if we're effectively doubling that, that means it would take upwards of 60 voids, and that's from 0, of course. So considering that we're 1,400 points in, it should be in the neighborhood of around 40 to 50 voids, which is not much worse than what it would just cost normally to do this entirely with void shards, which I would have already been prepared to do. Now, one of the main things I do want to impart on you guys is that this is the type of flexibility strategy that having an abundance of shards enables. So this is most certainly a luxury, one of the end game, and being able to farm Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare Clan Boss on a regular basis, mostly one keying, and just having an abundance of shards. We can take a look at the shard count here: 633 on the Ancients, 203 on the Voids, 40s on the Primals, and 50 on the Sacreds. Of course, the Voids will be the focus for today. So having an abundance of shards allows for this sort of flexibility to react to whatever is thrown our way from the game. So like I said, my original plan was to not spend any shards, and that is a nod to the people who ask on a regular basis, how do you have so many shards? How do you do this over time? And it's like decisions like this were ordinarily absent of the 10x for a champion I happen to want. I would have done this champ chase with no shards whatsoever, meaning that I will not have pulled voids since, I guess, guaranteed Narcies. But under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have pulled shards between now and the last 2x. Skipping a 2x in between means that I would go 12 weeks without pulling a single void shard, meaning I could stack them up over that entire duration. The other thing to consider here is that it is a 10x, which is less powerful than a progressive chance, so that is part of the equation going into here. So for a standard 10x, just for void champions, it's about a 1 in 6 chance that if you get a legendary at all, it's going to be the one featured on the 10x. So the odds aren't great per se, but they are better than normal, and of course it is 2 times void, so you're more likely to get a legendary in the first place compared to a progressive chance events where you have the base rate to get a legendary. And of course the final piece of the puzzle is our mercy. So we're focusing here on the void legendary row, and this will be linked in the description box down below if you guys want a copy of, or a blank copy of this tracker for yourself. The main thing to note here is that this is the amount of shards I've pulled since my last legendary, which was during the Narcies guaranteed event. I pulled, I think, Supreme Kale, unfortunately. And so we're basically 100 shards towards mercy. So absolute worst case, even if we don't get a legendary at all and the legendary is not Sulfyrion, then we pull 50-ish void shards, and then we're just that much closer to another mercy pull where we might be able to target something different during a progressive chance events, for example. So on the surface, it might look like it's just another player being tempted by plariums and antics and tactics to try and get people to pull shards. But for me, at least, there's a lot of thought and planning that goes into making these kinds of decisions, even if I end up changing my mind in the end. So as far as who we're looking for, we're not even going to muddy the pool. If I do happen to get a legendary, obviously I would want it to be the 10x champion. Sulfyrion, I do think he is amazing. One of the best Hydra champions who you really don't get to see a lot of action on, and maybe I would make a video on him if I did get him. But the AoE HP burn is super strong that activates it, and then he has a lot of healing, a lot of turn meter, and he has a just, in case you need it, he has a revive. So super powerful support champion, and I would most certainly move him straight in to my Nightmare Hydra team. And of course, seeing as how it is also just 2x voids in generals, that we're going to probably get a good amount of void epics, and the only one I'm really looking for is a Skrank, because I don't have him, another HP burn champion by happenstance, but I think he'd just be nice to have, particularly for the Cursed City. Just having another AoE HP burner in a specific faction can just be the difference maker in a certain stage in the future. All right, so enough rambling from yours truly. Let's get into the shard pulls. We've got the space, we've got barely enough cash, and hopefully we get some pretty decent luck. Let's dive into it. We are going to be tracking our points for the champion chase. We're starting off at 1400, and the target again is 5500. So we're going to need a whopping 4000 points, give or take. So the first 10 pop here looks like we're getting a bunch of epics. That's a good starter set. 3 epics, not much to say about them, unfortunately. Cold Heart is of course one of the best rares, if not the best rare in the entire game, but 1400 points, pretty solid start. That brings us up to 2800. So voids are very, very powerful, even during or especially during a 2x, because every single void epic really adds up compared to like ancient shards and whatnot. So if we get another triple epic, okay, maybe we get away with like 30 to 40 voids. This is looking pretty good. This is how you know that the 2x rates are on. Obviously, we're still looking for a legendary if we can happen to get that, but stacking up the epics is good for the points and also minimizing the amount of shards we have to pull in this session. Unfortunately, not much to say about many of these champions. I've honestly been looking for a reason to run Rowan somewhere, because she does have this cool ability that can place 4 poisons more or less on a single target, but I just haven't needed her. Like, I'm just waiting in the wings for a chance to build her, because I think I like the Bannerlords in general, like how they look. They're like the hooded and cloaked knights or whatever, so I just like the aesthetic. I think she also has hero reduction, but it's like the weak, or I guess the strong version when you ascend it. So it's like she could be useful for Amius, but I don't like building attack-based champions for Amius because they're really squishy. And then Isla Lifebraid, honorable mention, just because she has the cool like Shuzen passive, so to speak, where you have a chance of giving an extra turn or an instant turn to an ally, 12% chance. So kind of like a built-in relentless set of sorts. So 4,200 points. So just under, I guess another 1,400 might just, or 1,200 might just do it. Huntress is always good. That's banked for another future Broadmaw fusion. And is this a rare tax? You know what? We're probably due for that. Oh, another Huntress. Okay, Tree Shield Knot is pretty cool. I did mean to get a copy of him because I wanted to build him in case I need him for the Cursed City stages, just because he can be Sylvan Watchers specific. He's a support champion, I think, or is he defense? Yeah, support champion. So he might be the reviver that I need to clear a stage in the Cursed City. So this is most likely going to be the last 10 pop of the day. So gonna be most likely a grand total of 40 voids, provided we just get one epic in this 10 pop. Obviously, if we get all rares, then we're going to be a little bit short. We're around needing 800 or so points. Oh, okay. Thought we jinxed it. Okay. So unfortunately, on the nose 800, that means we do not get a legendary, meaning we do not get the Sulfyrion. Unfortunate. But in the grand scheme of things, like I said, we're building up Mercy. So now we're 138 towards the next Void legendary that will be guaranteed, air quotes, by hitting Mercy. And it was worth a shot, because if Sulfyrion had popped out, then it would have been spectacular, and it would have been a 40 Void investment for one of my most wanted PvE champions in the game. So was it a gamble? Absolutely. But was it worth it? In my opinion, absolutely as well. So we were able to go out there 5,500. We get ourselves 2 legendary tomes while continuing on with the fusion. And then we just have more, I guess, fusion epics to level. Continue on with champion training. All right. So that's going to do it for today's video. We shot our shot and we did not hit. And that's just how the cookie crumbles some of the time. Even a massive shard hoarder like myself can still take opportunities like this one just to take a chance to have a minimal investment and get a maximum reward. Didn't happen this time around, but sometimes it definitely can happen, just like with the last Sacred Pogo. That one was insane. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys were able to pull from your void shards over this fun weekend. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.